And you'll know by the time you worked your way up and down the neck and across the fingerboard. You'll have to shake your hand out of it.
Yeah, I bet. Now, do they get boring at all, these kind of exercises for you?
I have to admit, they're a little boring. You know?
Yeah.
That's why if you do it in front of the TV or whatever, but it's just like anything else, you know. A great master at any occupation, profession has to practice to stay in shape.
And what about practicing with another person?
That's a good idea as well. You know,
Yeah.
get somebody else that wants to practice and trade ideas back and forth and just kind of create exercises.
Probably makes the time go a lot faster,
Makes
and
it
you can
go
bounce off
faster,
each other.
right.
And what about the right hand techniques?
Right hand is a similar thing. You know, I use the first two fingers,
Sure.
and I usually do an exercise that incorporates switching back and forth between the two fingers.
Okay.
And then what I do to make it challenging is speed it up till I can get it as fast as I can get it. And what that does again is it keeps the muscles lubricated.
So what do you think is more important, the right or the left hand?
They're both equally important, and I mean, it basically, once you incorporate the two, then you have what it takes to make good music. So basically, again, you know, I'm using the right hand and the left hand.
Right, so they're working together. Now, it's interesting because I notice a different sound when you play close to the bridge, and then a different sound when you play close to the neck.
You have good ears.
Yeah, yeah, I got a good ear.
No, that's absolutely right. When you want a nice, warm, kind of fat tone, I like to play closer to the neck so you get a
Yeah,
nice,
that's
pretty,
different.
you know, like for a ballad, for instance, if you're recording a ballad, you want it to be
Yeah.
nice, fat, and round, you know, so I use that sound. And like you said, if we want to get closer to the bridge for a more percussive,
Yeah, that's completely different than what you just played. It sounds.
yeah.
And what about like snapping and popping?
Okay,
I
so
love that.
well, you know a lot about the bass, don't you?
I love that. Though.
Well, actually, it's you know, it's a style that's been around for years that every bass player pretty much does, and
See, that's the kind of stuff I like. Yeah.
and again, people kind of start slowly and speed it.
Now, what's amazing is that it can sound really loud and it can sound soft. And it seems like you have to have a good ear, especially when you're doing overdubs, right?
Well, this is very true, and actually, it's very important to use dynamics when you play. And most people say dynamics. I'm playing as loud as I can, you know. So.
Yeah.
But what you have to do is try to keep a consistent sound. So when you're overdubbing, if you go to punch in, the level should be the same.
It's not going to stand out.
Right, exactly. And that's one of the most challenging things about overdubbing.
Right.
And, you know, overdubbing is, for instance, if you happen to make a mistake on the tracking date, you have to go back and fix the note. When you go back and play, you're going to want your notes to be at the same level that they were. So if you were doing a rock line, driving line like that, when I go back into overdub, I don't want it to be
Yeah.
too soft
You're
or
getting
too
soft.
loud, you know.
So once again, it's about listening too,
listening,
right?
yes.
Well, you know, everything that you're saying to me seems like practice is really important.
If you really want to make music your life, that encompasses everything, and you actually live it, and practicing is a part of that.
We're very happy to be here in Baden-Baden. It's a beautiful city. And we thank you for coming out and spending the evening with us. And we were just wondering if Baden-Baden likes to hear the blues this evening. Would you like to hear Larry play the blues?
If music was only about sitting alone in your room and practicing, the world would be a much duller place. But stepping out of the practice room and into a group for the first time can be a little intimidating. I always suggest to beginning musicians that the blues is a good place to start. Four Plays guitarist Larry Carlton has spent much of his career exploring this music.
One of the reasons that I like the blues is because the harmonic format of the basic blues is so simple that it's a great opportunity to try to express something very important without the support of jazz chords, a symphony orchestra, a string pad. It's a very, very simple art form. And I enjoy the challenge of being able to play something meaningful in such a simple art form.
Music doesn't have to be complex to be satisfying. Playing the bass is as much a process of awareness as it is of skill, and this awareness must extend beyond what the drummer is doing. This can be a little overwhelming at first. That's the beauty of the blues for a young bass player.
There's a dialogue going on with the bassist when I'm playing the blues. It's not as extensive as when you're playing jazz, which has much more improvisation. There's more chords and more substitution of chords available in a jazz song. But in the blues, I was thinking about it today that if Nate's laying down he can stay on that for the whole 12-bar blues if he chooses to, and it would be appropriate. So I have to listen to what Nate's going to do on the bass when it comes time to change chords and see if he chooses to change chords. Because if he chooses not to, and if he stays on the root, and I change to this, then I don't need to put that note in my chord. So there's dialogue going on and decisions being made, but they're all very subtle, and again, in a very simple format.
Leading and following, suggesting and responding, all in real time. This is a learned skill for every musician to some degree. The blues is a musical form that allows you to stretch as much as you feel comfortable doing.
Larry Carlton. Thank you, Larry Carlton.
One of the most important decisions a musician has to make is what equipment to use. Bass players are different from horn players, who are different from keyboardists, and so on. It's really valuable to have a solid relationship with a dealer who understands the nuances of your particular instrument. For me, that person is Long Lee at the LA Bass Exchange, someone I've known and trusted for years.
How you doing, Long?
Hey, how you doing, Nate? Good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Well, you know, here at the LA Bass Exchange, some of the things that sets us apart from other stores is that essentially we just cater to bass players, from professional to beginner and everybody in between. I see you've got your own signature bass here, so tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, right here we do have a bass that I worked on a design with Yamaha.
Well, I noticed that it's a 5-string as opposed to a 4-string. Is there a reason why you chose a 5?
I chose a 5 because of the range. It allows me access to the lower notes, and that low B really gives me a wide range.
If you're stranded on a desert island, this would be your desert island bass.
This would be my desert island bass.
Wow. So I see that you've got a lot of knobs on this instrument. Can you tell us a little bit about what they do?
We'll start with the volume knob, which is very important. And actually, I like a single volume control instead of 2 because I can actually do my swells and those little tricks like that. This is our pickup selection knob.
Okay.
And so we have 2 pickups here. In the middle, we're listening to both. And if we want more of a